guys, Kelly here, and today I have a video that I kind of took from somebody else that I watched. So I had recently watched Charlie Brook did a video called Read One, Want More, where she talked about authors that she has read one book from and that she wants to read more. And as I was watching her video, I'm like, there's a lot of authors like that I have read in the last couple years that I have really enjoyed, and I've even gone out and bought some of their other books, and I really want to read more, because once you've really loved an author, you want to give their other stuff a chance. So I'm kind of taking Charlie's idea and doing a video on it. So these are authors that I've read a book, or I'm going farther and I'm saying if I've read one series by this author and want to read something else, because even though one series might be multiple books, it's, you know, like one set of characters, one theme, one style of that person's writing, and so I want to see what else they produce outside of that series. So let's get right down into it. I think I have 11 authors, so, or 12. So there was a lot of them, but these are ones that I know that there are other books out there that are already out and ready for me to either already own or to get from the library or purchase. So I already have ones in mind that I want to read by these authors. So the first one is Jordan Rivet, and she is a self-published author. I have read 3 books in her Steel and Fire series, which is a fantasy series about a duelist, and so it has a lot of sword fighting and adventure and political things going on. And so she has also written 2 other completed series, and so I have already bought the first book in Seabound, which it's called the Seabound Chronicles, is this, I believe, trilogy, and this is a dystopian. And she has another trilogy that I don't own from. I'll put a picture of it here because I actually don't remember the name of it right now. But I want to eventually get to that series, but I thought I'll do this one first and then get to that too, because I just really enjoy her writing. I think she does really fast-paced, interesting worlds. And then next I have Tamora Pierce. And so far I have been reading the Alana, well, it's actually called the Song of the Lioness series, but it stars Alana. And so this first book is Alana the First Adventure. I'm actually on the 3rd book in this quartet right now, so I've read 2.5 of her books. And because I've really been enjoying them, I've already bought some of her series that are in the same universe. So they all take place in Tortal in that world, but they have different characters. So the other series that I own is the Immortals Quartet, and then I also have the first book in the Becca Cooper series. I can't remember if this is just a trilogy or not, but this is actually kind of takes place before Alana. So I'll be interested to get to those once I finish the Alana series. I still have 1.5 books left in that. The next one is Marissa Meyer, and I have read everything that has been part of the Lunar Chronicles. So I read all 4 books, the novella, Fairest, and I read and the short story, the collection Stars Above, and I even read the 2 comic books that take place, or the graphic novels that take place after all of this happens. So I read everything in the Lunar Chronicles, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really fun story, and the characters were really enjoyable. And so I really want to get to her other series that begins with Renegades. I don't remember what the name of this series is called, but it has Renegades, and then Arch Enemies is the second one. I'm not sure if it's only going to be a duology or a trilogy. I'll have to look that up because I hate starting series that aren't finished yet. So I'm going to look that up before I start that. And then the next one is Maria V. Snyder. And I have been reading the Study series. This is actually the 2nd book, Magic Study. The first one's Poison Study, but I can't find my copy right now. I haven't read this one yet. I actually technically have already read this trilogy, but it was years ago and I don't remember it. And so I wanted to refresh. And so I'm reading this trilogy, and then I'm going to move on to some of her other series. She actually wrote another trilogy that takes place after this trilogy, which is, they call it both the Study series 4, 5, and 6, but then it also has a name called Soul Finders, I believe. And then she also has a couple other trilogies called the Glass Trilogy and the Gila Trilogy. These are all fantasy, and at least this one, I love the main character is a really strong female character that still has, it still has weaknesses and flaws that contribute to her character. So I'm looking forward to seeing how she does her characters in her other series. And then I have Nnedi Okorafor is the next one. She wrote the Benti trilogy. I've just read book 1, and I am planning on reading the other 2 books of this trilogy this month, hopefully. I know I only have like a week left, but these are really short novellas, so I'm planning on reading those. I have them both from the library. But then she also has a duology called the Akata Witch duology, and it is full-length novels. And so I'd really like to try that out because, you know, sometimes I'm not a huge fan of novellas and how the fact that they're so short. So I'd like to really try one of her full-length novels. I don't know much about it. I just know it's a fantasy novel, and it seems like similar to this, that it is taking place in the future, but like in a African-inspired society. So if anybody's read that, I would love to hear what you think about the Akata Witch duology. And the next one is a popular author on BookTube, and that is Brandon Sanderson. All I've read by him so far is this first book in the Mistborn trilogy, which is Mistborn: The Final Empire. I do plan on finishing Mistborn soon. They're just really big, so like sometimes I have to figure out how to fit in the bigger books. So I want to finish this trilogy, but I also just want to read pretty much anything else by him because everybody says everything is excellent. I know for sure I am reading Skyward, which is his brand new YA sci-fi book, next month, because that is the book that my buddy read group has picked. So I know I will be reading a Brandon Sanderson book next month, but I would also like to continue the Mistborn series next month as well if I can fit both bigger books in, because Skyward's also a large book. And then the next one is, I don't have these books, is E.B. White, who wrote Charlotte's Web. I just recently reread this book with my daughter. We listened to it, and I just thought it was so adorable. I loved it. I mean, obviously this is a children's classic that so many people adore. This was my first time reading it now that I'm an adult, and I really just adored it, and I want to read his other books with my children. So I'm going to read Stuart Little and The Trumpet of the Swan with my kids. I will try to see if I can find an audiobook that we can listen to in the car, because they just seem like adorable children's books to read and enjoy together that both adults and kids can like. And then the next one is another children author, and that is Katherine Applegate. I had just recently read The One and Only Ivan by her, like last month, and it was about a gorilla. It's from the gorilla's point of view. It's my like new favorite children's book. I loved it so much. It was like both heartfelt and funny, so great combination. So I want to read a lot of her other books. I'm actually currently reading Wish Tree, which is by her, and this is from a point of view of a tree. So it sounds like she always kind of comes from the point of view of either animals or other objects. I also have her book Crenshaw on audiobook from the library, so I'll probably be starting that one soon, and it is about a boy who has an imaginary cat as a friend. So once again has an animal focus, and so I'm really excited about reading those. I'm only like partway through Wish Tree, so I'll finish that before the end of the month and let you know if I continue to think Katherine Applegate is a good author. And then I have a couple thriller kind of writers that I would like to continue on. Thrillers are one of those that, you know, are really hard for me. If I find a thriller I really like, I do want to read other by the author, because it's hard for me to find one that I absolutely love. And so one I read recently that I really loved was Confessions by Kanae Minato, and this was translated from Japanese. And so part of the problem is finding other of her books that have been translated, but she has one other that I know is translated into English, and it is called Penance. And it sounds like it could be similar to this in the fact that it involves children and adults both in a thriller. And the way that she used children in this book was haunting, but like really excellent. So I am excited to try that one out soon. And then my next one is Hollie Overton. And I read Baby Doll, over the summer I believe I read it, and like last summer, and I really enjoyed this. This is about a woman who has been held captive for many years, ended up having a child in captivity, and this book actually takes place as she's escaping. So it's about the aftermath and like how she kind of gets back into society after being kidnapped. And I wouldn't call this a straight thriller. I'd call it more of like a thrilling drama, maybe more like, because I wouldn't say that it's exactly like most thrillers with a bunch of twists and turns, but it is really interesting to see how she like gets back to life after being kidnapped. So since I liked this one so much and thought it was very unique and original, I ended up buying one of her only other book that I think exists that I could find, which is The Walls. And this one also seems like it'll be kind of partly thriller but partly dramatic. and it is about a woman who works on death row, and her kind of, I think she is a single mom, she falls in love with a man, and like that maybe this man is not what he seems. So I'm not sure, it might be a little more thrillery, it sounds like, than the other one. And then moving on to one that is a contemporary YA author, and she's the only one I have on this list. The reason is that most of the contemporary YA authors that I really love, I've already read several of their works. So this is the only one that I've only read one of that I loved, and that was This Adventure Ends by Emma Mills. I just really loved the friendship group in this. It's hard to find an author that writes like really amazing friendships, and even though it has a little romance, the friendship actually takes precedence over the like romance in this, and so I really enjoyed it. So I want to try one of her other books. I do own First and Then, but I actually owned this one before I owned This Adventure Ends, and it just never called to me. I think because it is a lot about football. So if you've read this and you don't like football, tell me if you still think it was enjoyable. And I also think that this seems more like just a straight romance, and since I really liked her friendship groups, I have heard people review her other book called Foolish Hearts and say that it has a really strong friendship group in it. So even though I own First and Then, I might read Foolish Hearts first before that. And then my last one is a classic author, and everybody's heard of him, Charles Dickens. I read Christmas Carol at Christmas time, and I really enjoyed it. I always kind of like thought Dickens would be one I didn't like, and maybe that's because when I was in high school I did read a Dickens novel, but since it was so long ago and I don't really remember anything about it or the experience, and don't even know if I actually finished it, because you know, possibly sometimes in school I would only read until I really needed to finish the assignment. I read or tried to read Great Expectations in high school and didn't like it, but I was also, I think, a freshman at that point, so probably not very cultured or into classics. But when I read this, even though it's a small book, I really enjoyed it, and I liked his wit, and I've heard that he does have that wit carried on to his full-length novels. And obviously people know what else he has read or what else he has written. So tell me if you have a favorite Dickens novel, what it is, because he's got so many. I want to know where I should start in his full-length books. So if you have a Dickens recommendation, please put it down below. So those are the authors that I have read one book or one series from and would like to try more of their work. If you've read any of these and you think I should definitely get to them right away, please put that down below. I'll see you next time. Bye.